In the 21st century, nations have collapsed. From the ruins of war arise a society fueled by greed. Profiteering mega corporations provide protection and jobs to anyone who abides by their policies. The alternative, a criminal path. Street gangs engage in a constant power struggle against rival gangs and authorities. But there are some that have no interest in gang affiliations nor company citizenship. They only pledge allegiance to the highest bidder. Their title, Bounty Hunter. Their only objective, Hunt Down.
1997 saw an era where side-scrolling action games ruled the arcades. Contra, Ninja Gaiden, Double Dragon, fast, brutal, unforgiving. Then, like every other era, this era passed, gaming moved on, 3D became the new frontier, but two developers in Sweden never forgot what made these games feel electric. And for 7 years, they built the purest distillation of that era ever created. It was called Huntdown. And when it released in 2020, it reminded everyone what a side-scrolling action game could be when built with absolute devotion. Easy Trigger Games is a two-person studio based in Gothenburg, Sweden. Andres Remberg and Niklas Harlin founded it in 2012 with a simple, almost urban mission to make the kind of game they wanted to play, not the kind of game the market was demanding. Not a battle royale, not a live service, not a mobile free-to-play. A side-scrolling action game set in a dystopian future city where players take control of bounty hunters tracking down gang leaders through neon-lit urban corridors. The aesthetic was deliberate, 1980s sci-fi anime meets arcade action. Think Blade Runner crossed with Contra, crossed with a Saturday morning cartoon. They started building in 2013. They would not release the finished game until 2020, that is about 7 years later. 7 years is an extraordinary development timeline for a two-person studio building what appears on the surface to be a relatively contained game. But spend time with Huntdown and the reason becomes clear. Everything in it is handcrafted to a standard that borders on obsessive. The pixel art, every character, every enemy, every background element was drawn frame by Remberg. The animation quality rivals dedicated animation studios. Enemy characters move with weight and personality. Bosses have distinct attack patterns, tales and personalities that emerge purely through movement. The enemy AI was designed to create moment-to-moment tension rather than pure difficulty. Enemies take cover. They throw grenades to flush the player out. They retreat when outgunned. Each gang in the game has a distinct behavioral profile that changes how you approach their territory. The dialogue, each of the 3 playable bounty hunters have a distinct voice, a distinct personality, and a library of one-liners that would not be out of place in an 80s action film. The writing is sharp, knowing, and consistently funny without undermining the atmosphere. And the music, a full synthwave soundtrack composed specifically for the game, is so precisely matched to the visual aesthetic that it feels like the game was built around the soundtrack rather than the reverse. All this was from 2 people over 7 years. Huntdown launched on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Android in May 2020. The reviews were immediate and emphatic. Nintendo Life gave it a 9 to 10. Destructoid gave it 9 to 10. Push Square called it one of the finest run-and-gun games ever made. Critics reached consistently for the same language. Love letter to the arcade era, pixel art perfection, the best game of its kind in decades. The game sold steadily, not in the explosive numbers of classics like Hollow Knight or Stardew Valley, but in the consistent word of mouth pattern. of a title that ends its reputation one player at a time. In 2021, Huntdown launched on Apple Arcade, bringing the game to an entirely new mobile audience and introducing the precision action gameplay to players who had never touched a retro-inspired title before. The Apple Arcade release introduced Huntdown to millions of new players and confirmed what initial reviews had suggested. Quality finds its audience. It just sometimes takes time. What separates Huntdown from the dozens of retro-inspired action games released every year? Intentionality. Most retro-inspired games use pixel art as an aesthetic shortcut, a way to evoke nostalgia without the technical demands of modern rendering. Huntdown uses pixel art because it is the correct visual language for every game, for the game it's trying to be. Every design decision in Huntdown exists to serve the core feeling of a 1980s arcade action game, but executed with the design knowledge and player experience understanding that only exists in 2020. The cover system, a modern addition that would have been impossible in original arcade games, is implemented so naturally it feels like it was always there. The checkpoint system ensures the game is challenging without being punishing in ways that feels unfair. The co-op mode, 2 players tackling levels together, was implemented as a core feature rather than an afterthought, with level design that accounts for both single and dual player approaches. Huntdown didn't just recreate the past, it improved it. Huntdown will never have the cultural footprint of Hollow Knight or Stardew Valley. It doesn't need to. What it represents in the indie game landscape is something different and equally valuable. The proof that a 2-person studio with a focused, uncompromising vision can produce work that stands alongside the best the industry has ever made in any era at any budget level. Easy Trigger Games spent 7 years on a game that the market didn't demand. They built it because they believed in it. They released it when it was ready, not when a publisher told them to, not when a Kickstarter deadline forced them to. And they produced something that critics and players have called perfect. Not perfect in the sense of flawless, perfect in the sense of completely realized. A game that knows what exactly it wants to be and is exactly that. In an industry increasingly dominated by live service games designed to keep players spending indefinitely, Huntdown is a complete experience. You buy it once, you own it, you play it, you finish it, you feel satisfied. That model feels almost radical in 2024. Rainberg and Harlin proved this still work. 2 developers, 7 years, 1 perfect game. No microtransactions, no battle pass, no live service. Even in 2026, this game is still the best. It's still standing alongside the best of the best ever released in the industry. Just craft, just devotion, just the purest expression of a genre that people in Sweden refuse to let die. Huntdown is not the biggest game you ever play. It might be the most complete. If you play Huntdown, like and subscribe and tell me in the comment section which bounty hunter you chose when going for a mission.